We're pleased to be joined here today by retired Major General Paul Eaton. Major General, it's good to see you again. He's currently a senior advisor to the National Security Network. He retired from active duty after more than 30 years in the United States Army. From 2003 and 2004, General Eaton served in Iraq as the commanding general of the Coalition Military Assistance Training Team. Prior to serving in Iraq, General Eaton commanded the Army's Infantry Center and was Chief of Infantry for the Army. He studied at West Point, earned a master's degree in political science from Middlebury College. General Eaton, thank you for your service. Please proceed. You have 5 minutes, and your entire statement will be made part of the record and then open to questions. Please proceed.
Chairman Durham, thank you very much. Ranking Member Cruz and members of the subcommittee, thank you very much for inviting me here to share my views on closing the Guantanamo Bay Detention Center. Mentioned that I had the last operational mission to create the Iraqi armed forces. My biggest challenge when I did that was to overcome over 30 years of Saddam despotism and its impact on the society in Iraq. So we worked very hard to develop what the Brits call the moral component, to instill the adherence to the rule of law. We drilled daily the notion of civilian control of the military justice, prisoner management, and battlefield discipline. We stressed accountability. Then Abu Ghraib blew up on us. The day that happened, the day it hit the press, my senior Iraqi advisor, an Air Force general under Saddam, retired, came into my office and said, "General, you cannot understand how badly this is going to play on the Arab street." We lost the moral high ground. The investigation of Abu Ghraib by Major General Tony Taguba, a great American hero, found that torture implemented at Guantanamo was exported to detainee operations in Iraq. Abu Ghraib was the logical outcome of our Guantanamo experience. Men who had served in Guantanamo during the worst days of enhanced interrogation techniques were deployed to Iraq to get Mo eyes interrogations. Not my words, borrowed from testimony. Abu Ghraib was the spawn of Guantanamo and is one reason why I'm convinced that we've got to close down this detention center. You can't buff Guantanamo enough to shake the shine to shine again after the sins of the past. Improvements in detainee treatment and new military commission rules will not change the belief in the minds of our allies and our enemies that Guantanamo is a significant problem to the prosecution of the U.S. national security agenda in general and the U.S. military in particular. The argument that the Guantanamo facility represents a valuable intelligence tool is simply wrong. The shelf life of intelligence has, and particularly the people who have the potential intelligence, is very short. The argument that Guantanamo facility is necessary to hold dangerous men is simply wrong. As the Senator Durbin mentioned, our supermax prisons do this quite well. We have a great many allies and alliances created for many reasons, most providing for the mutual defense. My team in Iraq was composed of 9 nations, military and civilian. In late-night discussions, our Guantanamo problem would come up from time to time, and after Abu Ghraib, often. Some of our closest allies have refused to send us detainees because of Guantanamo, and we're losing intelligence opportunities every time this happens. Releasing any individual Guantanamo detainee does not change our national security posture. To this soldier, the fear-based argument to keep Guantanamo Bay Detention Facility open is hard to understand. If brought to the U.S. for prosecution, incarceration, or medical treatment, the detainees will pose no threat to our national security. The 86 men who have been cleared for transfer should be transferred. We must find lawful dispositions for all law of war detainees, as we have done in every conflict. Further, Guantanamo places our soldiers and nation at risk, not only because it makes America look hypocritical as we promote the rule of law, but because it makes the detainees look like the warriors that they are not. Our leaders in Iraq would pose the question early and often, did we create more terrorists today than we managed to take off the street? Guantanamo is a terrorist-creating institution and is a direct facilitator in filling out the ranks of al-Qaeda and other terror organizations that would attack our country and our interests. Guantanamo, in military terms, is a combat power generator for the enemy. We as a nation are strongest when we uphold the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Geneva Conventions, and the other laws and treaties and conventions to which we subscribe. We are weakest when we stray from the rule of law. We have an opportunity and an imperative to close Guantanamo now as we wind down combat operations in Afghanistan. There is no national security reason to keep Guantanamo open. In the words of one of my colleagues, they don't win unless they change us. And we've got to resist that attempted change. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, General Eaton. Brigadier General Stephen Zanakis served in the U.S. Army as a Medical Corps officer for 28 years before retiring. A psychiatrist with an active clinical and consulting practice, General Zanakis is an adjunct professor at the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences in the Military Medical Department. He's the founder of the Center for Translational Medicine, a research organization developing treatments and conducting tests on brain-related conditions affecting soldiers and veterans. General Zanakis previously served as senior advisor to the Department of Defense on issues relating to the care and support of service members and their families. Graduated from Princeton University and the University of Maryland School of Medicine. General Zanakis, thank you for your service to our country, and please proceed.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Ranking Member Cruz and members of the subcommittee, Senator Feinstein. Appreciate the opportunity to testify today. As you said, I'm board certified in general psychiatry and child and adolescent psychiatry. I have extensive experience in treatment, research, teaching, administration. Retired at the rank of Brigadier General, commanded medical activities, medical centers, and medical regions. The federal courts and the Office of the Military Commissions have qualified me as a psychiatric and medical expert. I've had multiple interviews with detainees, advised attorneys, and spent cumulatively nearly 3 months in Guantanamo over the past 4.5 years. I currently provide consultation and expert testimony as needed on 7 current or former detainees. I have reviewed medical, intelligence, and military files of nearly 50. The treatment of hunger strikers at Guantanamo compromises the core ethical values of our medical profession. The AMA has long endorsed the principle that every competent patient has the right to refuse medical intervention. The World Medical Association and the International Red Cross have determined that force feeding through the use of restraints is not only an ethical violation, but contravenes Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions. Force feeding completely undermines the physician-patient relationship by destroying the trust that is essential for all clinical treatment, including medical issues unrelated to force feeding. It engages physicians in the use of force against detainees. At Guantanamo, physicians and nurses have become part of the command apparatus that uses punitive and painful methods to break the hunger strikes in the use of restraint chairs, dry cells, forced cell extractions, and denial of communal privileges. The plain truth is that force feeding violates medical ethics and international legal obligations, and nothing claimed in the name of defending our country can justify cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment of another man or woman. The detention facilities at Guantanamo diminish America's standing among our allies and put at question our true values. The underlying issues that contributed to the hunger strike must be addressed, including ending the harsh conditions of confinement that have been put into place this year. Statements in the media leave the impression that the detainees are highly trained soldiers eager to get back on the battlefield. The vast majority of these men do not fit the picture of the worst of the worst. These detainees pale in comparison to violent prisoners accused of serious felonies or murders that I have seen and evaluated in this country. To be clear, if any detainee has committed a crime, I strongly believe that they should be charged, prosecuted, and convicted and punished accordingly. The fact is, however, that most of these detainees have not been charged. The restrictive and oppressive conditions undermine our national security objectives. Force feeding must end. It is unethical, an affront to human dignity, a form of cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment in violation of our Geneva Convention obligations. My recommendations include, first, The underlying issues that contributed to the hunger strike must be resolved, including expeditious release. Second, detainees should not be punished for engaging in hunger strikes. Third, all directives, orders, and protocols that provide explicitly or implicitly that health professionals act as adjuncts of security officials must be rescinded. Trust in the medical staff by detainees has been so deeply compromised. Independent doctors and nurses should be brought in. Fourth, the aging detainees require more complicated and sophisticated medical care. The regular rotation of clinical staff impedes continuity of care, diagnosis, and treatment. It places dedicated and professional military clinicians in untenable circumstances of providing suboptimal treatment to an increasingly ill population. It is not fair to the doctors, nurses, or detainees. Thank you for the privilege of speaking to you.
Thank you, Dr. Zanakis.